I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and in this video we're taking a detailed look at the Tropicfeel Lift 40-liter roller bag, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. Let's dive in. The actual material that this bag is made out of is a recycled polyester. So bringing it closer to the camera here, you can see that it looks pretty durable and it feels durable too. It's got like a nice matte finish to it. It didn't really like mark up or anything, and if it did, it was pretty easy to wipe clean. And you've got that material throughout, you know, even on the back here, it's a little bit of that material. I'm not sure if it's like a little bit more durable. It feels slightly different. It's a little bit rougher down here than it is up here, but it does feel very well made. We also have YKK zippers throughout, which is great to see, and Duraflex hardware. The wheels themselves are pretty simple. So there's also these like little kickstands. So we've only got the 2 wheels so that helps it. That's where it like helps it stand up straight. They're a little bit buffed or scuffed up at this point, but the wheels are still in pretty solid shape. They're just pretty average. Like, I wouldn't say they did super well over anything other than like flat ground. They weren't really like mind blowing, but they are replaceable. What's nice is that you can kind of you know, if you do have an issue with them, you can unscrew that, which is, we like to see replaceable hardware. Another thing that I don't really love about this bag is the telescoping handle. So there's one height adjustment, which isn't a huge deal when it's only a 2-wheeled bag, but this is so rickety, like more so than I would say pretty much any other rolling luggage we've tested. Like, that moves around so much and it just doesn't feel secure, especially when you're, you know, dragging this bag behind you. I don't love that feeling. I know there has to be some movement in there to prevent any breaking, but other brands are able to lock that down a little bit more. So didn't really love that. But the last thing to kind of discuss about the outside here, well, I guess 2 things. We've got carry handles throughout. So we've got 3, 1 on the side and then 1 on the bottom and 1 on the top for easy moving around. Slightly padded, not overly so, but good for quick grabs in and out of the overhead compartment. But with the capacity is kind of what I think the biggest thing to point out in this bag is. So with this, they say that it expands from 40 to 70 liters, and that's with the add-on expansion, that's with the add-on of a backpack. So there is the Nest backpack that can give you that extra 20 liters. What the or I think it's, I don't remember exactly how much it is, but basically there's a couple different configurations here. And in order to get it from 40 to 70, you have to include the backpack. However, there is an expansion zipper here, which in order to engage that, you pull this out and you expand that. And then, you know, I'll do this in a second, but basically you kind of pull out this expansion system and that gives you an extra 12 liters according to them, which feels pretty on par. I'll show you where that 12 liters actually goes. But if you wanted to get this, like in some places on their site or in a video, they say it goes up to 82 liters. That's that, you know, if you have the backpack, which gets you to 70, and then you increase this and get you that extra 12 liters, then you're at 82. So it's not actually just this suitcase that gets you to 82 liters. It's the suitcase plus the expansion plus the backpack. So it's a little bit misleading in that way, kind of like marketing fluff. And, you know, I would say it's kind of less of a big deal, except like the execution of the inside storage kind of makes me crazy, which we'll get into. But that is something worth noting about the actual capacity of this bag. Unlike most rolling luggage, we actually do have a harness system to discuss. So with this, there is a set of backpack straps tucked away behind this back panel. It's truly, in order to access it, it's truly as simple as opening this up. It clips down on all 4 sides. So just popping open those clips, pulling these out, making them accessible behind this panel, and then that's all. So I think that this bag did this so well, or they did this so well on this bag. A lot of the time when you have a piece of roller luggage that turns into a backpack, the straps are kind of like almost an afterthought or tucked away in a weird spot. Sometimes it even impacts the packability of the actual suitcase itself. Like, it's tucked in a compartment that kind of cuts into that main compartment space. What's so nice about this is that it tucks away so easily. It takes a little bit of finessing to get it back, I would say, but I love how easy it is to engage them. And I think that that's a large selling point of this backpack and something they execute so well. It's kind of tainted by the other things that aren't done quite as well, which we'll get get into when we actually look at the storage itself. But the actual straps, like they don't have a ton of padding to them, but no backpack or no luggage that you carry as a backpack is really going to be that comfortable. But in terms of like comfortability, I would say this is on the more comfortable side because the straps are like, okay, they're pretty squishy, but there's also slight squish and padding on this back panel too. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like on. This fits exactly like you think it would. It's kind of high up, so it doesn't really feel like it's like bumping into my lower back or anything really uncomfortably. When it does get heavy, it's not quite as great to carry on your back. But like I said, that's pretty much any rolling luggage. It's just not, rolling luggage isn't really designed to be carried this way. But with these straps, like they're fine enough and the padding is enough, and even though it's thin, it's still comfortable enough to where, you know, if you just need this going up like a flight of stairs or something, or if it's like really rough ground or rough terrain and you want to just throw it on your back, you can definitely do this over short distances. And the execution of the straps, you know, they don't get in the way for the rest of everything else you're packing in that main compartment. So it doesn't really feel like a nuisance to have them if you don't end up using them. If you're finding this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. So I would say there aren't really secondary compartments on this thing. There's just a lot of compartments that all kind of cut into the main compartment. So we're gonna just start there. I guess we'll kick it off with this front laptop compartment. This, I guess, really is the only secondary compartment, but this fits up to a 16-inch device. So in here is a 16-inch MacBook Pro. You can see that was pretty much the max that could fit in there. You know, getting it in there was kind of tight. So, you know, if you're worried about your device on zipper teeth, maybe keep that in mind. You know, it does technically fit in there. I think what's nice about this pocket is that there is some padding and some structure there. So if you don't use it, it doesn't look floppy or weird. But also, you know, if you put this in the overhead bin, having your laptop in there is not really, I wouldn't be that concerned about it because it is fairly protected. I wouldn't necessarily love throwing this in like the cargo hold. Like if I had to check this, I wouldn't love that, but that's not a fault of this suitcase. I feel that way pretty much about any suitcase that has like a soft shell with a laptop storage. So just kind of a preference thing. We also have that reverse coil AquaGuard zipper for a little bit of weather protection. Looking at the expansion, I'm actually just gonna expand this while we're here. So this is that system. There's no buckle. So you can see this is like a closed loop system. So, or I guess maybe not a closed loop system, but there's no like clip to unclip it. So what you do is you expand these as much as you can, and then you sort of pull it out from the other side to give you like equal distance, and then you unzip this expansion zipper. So this goes all the way around. I'm gonna leave this expanded when we actually go into that main compartment so you can see where that storage goes, but it zips all the way around and then it lifts up, and then you can see when I flip this to the side, that's that extra 12 liters all around. So it is a nice and convenient thing, but once you have your gear stuffed in here, like obviously right now it's not full, so it's not staying structured, but let's say it was all the way up, you would have to tighten it down this way. The annoying part is that you have to kind of feed it through both sides in order to get it to lock down properly. So it was so, for me, it was just so tedious, and I guess it is kind of a set it and forget it situation. But if you weren't setting it and forgetting it, then you just sort of end up with all of this extra work, I guess. Like if you wanted to kind of go back and forth depending on, you know, if you had more or less in here, even within like a singular trip. The other thing is that these are very hard to feed back in. You actually have to go through this laptop compartment. You can see my finger pokes through there, and it's like you poke it through a little bit and then pull it from the inside, and then that puts that away. Otherwise, you'll just have this strap flopping around all the time, which, you know, not a terrible thing in the scheme of things, but also just not aesthetically great. We also have this top pocket, which this has a mesh pocket on the lid of it, which is good for small items. Like I had my AirPods in there. I honestly just kind of ignored this aspect of it because it is so small. Like AirPods were kind of the only thing I could fit in there. You can maybe do a cable, but like a battery bank doesn't really even fit in here. So didn't love that. And then here is where you have quick access to the toiletry bag. So this is the roll-up toiletry bag. You can put this in here, and I'm gonna put it back in there so you can see what it looks like when you open up the main compartment. But if you wanted to utilize this space for something that wasn't the toiletry bag, you can. So I'm actually gonna open up the inside now and show you what that looks like. So you're gonna see when I open this up, I actually don't have anything on one side, and I'll show you why. But even when this was full, I had a really hard time. I had an okay time opening it, but when it was time to zip it back up again, I was always fighting these zippers. It never really felt smooth, and with us, we've tested a lot of YKK zippers, so I know it's not the YKK zippers, it's the way that they're stitched on, and it's the configuration of the actual bag itself. So I'm gonna look at this side really quick because I do have gear in here. On the lid side, there is a mesh zippered area, and this is where I just sort of left like all of my small accessories. I'm going to just realize that I did tighten this a bit. So all of those fit in there very nicely with the expansion. See what I mean? You can't just kind of like pull it up. You have to actually feed it through. I don't know, it's very tedious. But with that expansion, you can see it's sort of dumped down a little bit more, and that's because that's where that expansion is. So if you don't have it engaged, it looks like that. If you do, it's like that. So you do get a decent amount of space there. And then this is that toiletry bag location. So if I open this up and take out the toiletry bag, then you can see there's a little flap here that's Velcro, and you can actually pull this area up, and it allows you to pack the toiletry bag kind of in a different configuration. It, instead of being fed into this area, it'll hang almost vertical so that when you pack or when you close this, it like hangs down into the other side of the compartment. The nice part about this is it gives you a little bit more packing space in here if you prefer that. But if you don't want it, like, and you don't have a ton of space on this side, you can just feed this back through. I did notice with this roll-up toiletry bag, right now I have it pretty minimally packed, but if this got even slightly too wide, it was very difficult to get in and out of this pocket. So that's also something worth considering, because if you're using this because you want the ability to take it out really fast at like TSA or something, you might struggle depending on how the rest of the bag is packed. So moving on to this big bucket side, this honestly is where I had most of the beef with this bag, because I think I see what they were trying to do, but the execution of it just didn't really land. First of all most of all is these two side pockets here. So these actually are accessible via the outside, and they say these are a good spot for shoes. So with this, you could definitely put a shoe in there, a shoe being the operative word, because this is one singular men's size 12 shoe. And when I fit this in here, that's all that fits. So I could fit one shoe in this side and one shoe in this side, and then like, I guess that's kind of nice, but then you have like an awkward space in the middle that's a little bit harder to pack with your gear. I would almost just prefer to take this size 12 shoe, put it in a shoe pouch, and get it packed down here. Maybe that's just a preference thing. I just didn't like the execution of these side pockets. The material, I think also the way that it's sewn in is like layered kind of weird. So you can see I have a pair of shoes on this side. This is a size, over here is a size 8 women's shoe. So I have those actually, I was able to fit 2 of those in there, and they're thinner shoes, so they're designed to like squish down a little bit more for travel. But over here you can still see there's like a lot of just material folding over weird, and it's almost like the way that it looks, you think that that extra material is so that you can like larger items can fit in here better, or it expands a little bit, but instead it just still feels really tight. It's just layered kind of awkwardly. So I don't really know the intention behind that. It never really felt like anything I put in these side pockets was fitting in there. So you could use it for other items because it is, you know, a little bit of a separation for dirty gear. So you could use it for, I don't know, like dirty clothing or something like that, a water bottle, kind of whatever you want to use, anything you want accessible from the outside, you could do that. The other thing I have here is their actual like ladder packing system. So with this, that is designed to go on the inside of this bag as well. However, if you're utilizing these side pockets, you can't fit this like clothing ladder system that they have, which is something that we've actually found with a lot of their bags. If you want to use this, you oftentimes can't fit a lot of other stuff in there. Sometimes you can't even fit, you know, this is a week's worth of clothing, and you can get it pretty compressed down. But we also have this clothing in 1 large and 2 small packing cubes that takes up about the same amount of space and is a little bit more flexible to fit within these pockets, like within the fact that those pockets are taking up space. So let's say I do take these shoes out, I don't want to utilize any of these pockets. We can kind of compress that on the side. It does technically fit in here with a little bit of room to spare on top if you wanted to. Maybe you just want to put the toiletry pouch there and you want to put your tech pouch here or something like that, or you want to just get a shoe pouch and put the shoes down at the bottom instead. So you do kind of have to, configure this in a very specific way in order to make use of all of the features. And if you want certain features, you kind of have to sacrifice others, which I don't love in a suitcase like this, especially one that's designed to be so feature heavy. I think that, you know, the execution was just a little bit awkward. This like inside liner material is just kind of overwhelming to pack around. So I think in general, this was like great in theory, but in practice, it doesn't quite make it there. I think what this does really well is transform to backpack straps, and I like to backpack mode, and I think that that's something that's so hard to execute well. So it is impressive that they were able to do it with this bag, but overall, like the rest of the packing experience is, to be quite candid, kind of infuriating. And to me, I don't think that having backpack straps is quite worth it, and there are other bags that do it, you know, half as well, but pack better overall, which generally I would prefer. So there you have it, the Tropicfeel Lift 40-liter roller bag. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.